You're not hungry, and yet you're still eating. But when you overeat, you know that the worst part isn't feeling over full, it's the guilt and frustration that comes with it. How am I supposed to lose weight if I can't control my appetite? I'm Ruth, a retired doctor, coach, and mindful eating instructor for women over 50, and in this video, I'll reveal the 5 most common reasons we eat when we're not hungry, why none of them have anything to do with willpower, and the exact steps you can take today to start to change your habits for good. And before we get going, it's important that I say this. Overeating is common and what we're discussing today, but if you regularly binge eat, so at least once a week for a couple of months, and are finding it distressing, then please seek specialist help. First, let's define a habit, because this is the key to everything that will follow. A habit is a behaviour that we do in response to a cue or trigger in our environment, so what's going on around us. And eating can become a habit, so I'll explain how. So remember Pavlov and his dogs, they're a great example. So Pavlov fed the dogs and rang a bell, and soon the food became irrelevant, because when the bell rang, the dogs would salivate. The bell had become the cue, the salivation was the habit. So think about the ways in which you eat. The cookie you always have with your mid-morning coffee, the chips or crisps you eat in front of the TV in the evening, even when you've just had dinner. Like Pavlov's experiment, we become conditioned to eat in a particular situation. We're not listening to the internal messages from our body, specifically whether we're hungry or not. We're eating on autopilot. Now, the good news is that what's been learned can be unlearned. What you need to do is interrupt the chain of events to break that association between cue and behaviour. So how do we do that? Well, there's a couple of ways to switch off the autopilot. Sometimes simply recognising what you're doing is enough. Other times you might need to make things a bit more difficult. So move the cookies, pop a note on the fridge or on the carton of milk. Ask yourself if you're really hungry, and we'll come on to that in the next section. So reason number 1 is habit eating. Think about yours and where you can insert a pause. What can you do to create a pattern interrupt and catch yourself before the autopilot kicks in? Next is the one that still gets me, and it's a great example of why tuning into your hunger and fullness signals takes time and practice. So picture the last time you ate something. What else were you doing? And I'm willing to bet that you were either watching TV, scrolling on your phone, or at your desk at work. If not, genuinely well done. If you were doing something else, welcome to real life. You're not alone. We all do it, including me. This was me in my old job as a doctor. Every lunch was spent essentially inhaling my food whilst dictating reports or answering emails. And yep, I'm talking about eating when distracted for number 2. Whilst we can multitask, it reduces our brain's efficiency. And by focusing on the distracting thing, you're reducing eating to a mindless formality. You've lost the ability to judge portions, and chances are you've overeaten before you've even noticed. Now, the obvious solution is to stop doing the distracting thing. But I want to share a simple tool I've created that helps me to feel in touch with my appetite signals and also the pleasure of eating. So give it a go, because it can help you feel more in control around food. And it's a reminder to taste your food. So T stands for take a breath. Pause, take a couple of slow deep breaths so you're in the zone. A stands for assess your hunger. Try and rate it out of 5, from not at all hungry, that's a 1, to absolutely ravenous, that's a 5. S is for senses. How does the food look and smell? Focus on the sensation of taste and enjoy it. T is for take your time. Slow down, savour every bite. If you need to, put down your fork between mouthfuls. E is evaluate fullness. Check in regularly and stop when you're comfortably full. It's okay to leave food. Now I've made this into a PDF and I'll put the link below. So print it out, stick it on your fridge, come back and let me know how you get on in the comments. Has it changed how you eat? So moving on, we're going to stick with this concept of inserting a mindful pause and apply it to some specific situations. Firstly, that feeling when you know you're not hungry, but you want the food because it's delicious, that desire. The gelato shop you pass on holiday, the slice of homemade birthday cake at a family party, the almond croissant because you passed a bakery window, and the smell of freshly baked bread and pastries was so tantalising you salivated like Pavlov's dogs. This has a name, and it's number 3, hedonic eating, from hedonism, the belief that the purpose of life is to enjoy yourself. So eating for pleasure is normal. Food isn't just a source of fuel, it's there to be enjoyed, and it's part of life's celebrations for every culture. So don't feel guilty about it, because life is too short for food guilt. Now, we hopefully agree that we're not going to deny ourselves the foods we love, but the question is, how do we achieve balance? Because restricting a food makes us crave it and increases the risk of overeating it later. But equally, not restricting what you eat doesn't mean it's fine to eat a carton of ice cream every day. So think of these foods as your occasional foods as opposed to your everyday healthy foods. And if the occasional becomes the everyday, then by definition, they're no longer occasional. So our occasional foods are personal, so take the time to think about yours. My top 3 are gelato, pizza, and yet the almond croissant. What are yours? Why not share them below in the comments? So use the taste tool, pause before you eat and ask if you're hungry. But if you aren't hungry and you still want to eat the delicious thing occasionally, then that's okay. Give yourself permission to enjoy your favourites now and again without the guilt. Now, the idea of occasional foods brings us on to the next specific situation. Imagine you've gone out on a work dinner, you've already had a starter and a main course, and you don't fancy dessert, but everyone else is having one, including your boss, and you don't want to be the odd one out. Plus, your wine glass is mysteriously getting topped up without you noticing. Cue waking up at 2 a.m, feeling bloated, uncomfortable and nauseous, followed by clock watching and fretting for the next 3 hours because you can't sleep and you have to get up for work. Social eating is hard to negotiate because it's not just our own needs at play, but social expectation and a feeling of wanting to be polite. And if you leave food in a restaurant, will the chef take it personally? I genuinely don't know. So if you are a chef or you know a chef or work in a kitchen, let me know in the comments because I'm genuinely interested. Now, we can't avoid social eating, and nor should we because it's fun. So here's a few things that help me out. So firstly, don't go out feeling ravenously hungry, so 5 out of 5 on the hunger scale we discussed earlier, because chances are you'll shovel the food down, overshoot, overeat, and then feel bloated and a bit unwell. Try to eat when you're comfortably hungry, so around 3 out of 5, and stop when you're comfortably full, again 3 out of 5. And if need be, have a light afternoon snack if you're eating out late, and have something with protein and fibre that will keep you feeling full. And take it steady on the alcohol, because not only does it add calories with no nutritional value, it impacts your decision making and it also messes up your sleep. Now, I make my menu choices based on the whole menu, and I'll explain. If I really fancy a burger and fries, that will fill me up and I won't have room for dessert, not without it making me feel uncomfortably full. But if I really like the look of a dessert, usually something chocolate based, I'll pick something lighter for my main course so I can enjoy both. Or if I want to eat both, have a taste of the dessert and ask for the rest to be wrapped to take away so I can take it home and enjoy it later or the following day when I'm hungry again. And lastly, check in with your hunger and fullness levels throughout the meal and adjust accordingly. We can enjoy our meals out without derailing our long-term progress. Remember that it's repeated overeating that makes you gain weight, not one enjoyable evening. And if you're still with me, this section is the most important of all. It's the most difficult type of non-hunger eating to deal with and the one that affects the majority of the clients I work with, Number 5, emotional eating. And this includes boredom, anger, anxiety, happiness, and stress. And it's usually something we've done for a long time, often dating back to childhood. I remember being told that if I was good at the dentist, we'd counterproductively go and have a cake at a cafe in town afterwards, specifically an iced bun. Remember those? This isn't to say that it's our parents' fault, because children have been given sweets when upset for centuries. But as we get older and in charge of our own food supply, we can continue to self-soothe by eating. When we feel stressed, it feels unpleasant. So eating something sweet or salty or drinking a glass of wine after a bad day can dampen down those difficult feelings. But often the relief is only momentary, as it's replaced by feelings of guilt, shame, or blaming ourselves for a lack of willpower. Moving on from emotional eating is tough because the habits are ingrained. We can't turn off our emotions, and they're a normal part of life, even the negative ones. So we need to get more comfortable with being uncomfortable. And yet awareness again is the key. So noticing the difficult emotion and observing it, or even labeling it like, I'm getting stressed, and noticing how it feels and where in your body you feel it. So here's something that might surprise you. The feelings you get in your stomach with anxiety, that churning butterflies feeling, can mimic hunger. So before reaching for the food, ask, is this your genuine hunger or your nervous system talking? And once you've noted what you feel, ask yourself what you need if it's not food. And it helps to be specific. So if I'm bored, I need stimulation, something to engage my brain. If I'm stressed, I need to step away or walk outside, a phone call with a friend or a hug. If I'm angry, I need to move my body. So try to recognize the patterns in your behavior, because once you do this, then you can start to implement pattern interrupts with a pause and a deep breath. You can't change or remove the emotion, but you can change how you react to it. So come up with a list of coping with the difficult stuff that doesn't involve food. So the common thread through everything we've covered is the pause. That moment of awareness between the trigger and the eating is where everything changes. So ask, am I hungry? What am I feeling? What do I need right now? And then act accordingly. So download the taste tool below to make a start. But there's another side to overeating that has nothing to do with your behaviour and everything to do with the food itself, and the science might surprise you. That video is right here, and I'll see you there.